The Valthari Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They controlled half of all known space. 12 different species served under their banner, and not one of them had ever challenged their power. The Valthari were tall beings with skin like living crystal. They believed themselves to be the chosen rulers of all life, and for 3,000 years no one had proven them wrong. High Sovereign Maltheus sat upon his throne on Valtheris Prime, the capital world of the Dominion. His crystalline body caught the light of 3 suns that shone through the massive windows of his palace. He was old even by Valthari standards. He had seen species rise and fall. He had watched rebellions burn out like dying stars. Nothing surprised him anymore. That changed when his advisors brought him news of a new species. "They call themselves humans," said Minister Rethik, bowing low before the throne. "They come from a small yellow star on the outer rim of the galaxy, a place called Sol." Maltheus leaned forward with mild interest. "How advanced are they?" "Primitive, my sovereign. They have only colonized 3 star systems. Their ships use basic fusion drives. Their weapons are kinetic and chemical. They have no shield technology, no faster-than-light communication. By our standards, they are children playing with rocks." The High Sovereign smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Another species for integration, then. Send an assessment fleet. Offer them the standard terms." Minister Rethik bowed again. "It will be done, my sovereign." 2 months later, the Dominion assessment fleet arrived in the Sol system. 15 massive warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the edge of human space. Each ship was the size of a small city. Their hulls gleamed with energy shields that could stop any weapon known to the galaxy. Ambassador Rethik stood on the bridge of the lead vessel and looked at the blue planet called Earth on his viewing screen. It was a beautiful world, he admitted, covered in water and green land, filled with billions of humans who had no idea what was about to happen to them. "Open a channel to their leaders," Rethik commanded. The humans responded within minutes. A woman appeared on the screen. She wore a military uniform with many medals on her chest. Her hair was dark and cut short. Her eyes were hard like stone. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Defense Council," she said. "You are in human space without permission. State your business." Rethik almost laughed. This small creature was trying to sound strong. It was like a mouse threatening a lion. "I am Ambassador Rethik of the Valthari Dominion," he replied. "I come with an offer of great generosity. The Dominion wishes to integrate your species into our empire. You will surrender all military ships and weapons. You will accept Dominion governors on all your worlds. You will pay tribute in resources and labor. In exchange, you will receive our protection and access to galactic trade." Captain Vasquez did not blink. "And if we refuse?" "Refusal is not wise," Rethik said. His voice became cold. "Species that refuse integration are subjugated by force. Your technology is primitive. Your military is weak. You cannot win against us. This is not a threat. It is simply a fact." There was silence on the bridge. Every Dominion officer watched the human woman, waiting for her to show fear, waiting for her to beg for mercy, waiting for her to accept the inevitable. Elena Vasquez did none of these things. "No," she said. Rethik tilted his head. "I do not think you understand your situation, Captain." "I understand it perfectly," Vasquez replied. "You have bigger ships. You have better technology. You have ruled this galaxy for thousands of years, and you think that makes you strong." She leaned closer to the screen. "Let me tell you something about humans, Ambassador. We have spent our entire history fighting each other. Every war you can imagine, we have already fought. Every weapon you can dream of, we have already used. We have killed each other with swords and guns and bombs that can destroy entire cities. We have gassed each other in trenches. We have burned each other with fire that falls from the sky. We know war like you know breathing." Rethik felt something strange. It took him a moment to recognize it as unease. "We are giving you one chance," Vasquez continued. "Take your ships. Go back to your empire. Tell your sovereign that humanity is not interested in integration. Tell him that we wish to live in peace, but also tell him this." Her voice dropped low and dangerous. "If you come back with warships, we will fight, and we will not stop fighting until one of us is destroyed. This is not pride talking. This is not foolish bravery. This is a warning from one species to another. We have been preparing for war since before we could write. It is in our blood. It is in our bones. Walk away, Ambassador. This is the only warning you will receive." The bridge was silent for a long moment. Then Rethik began to laugh. It started as a small chuckle and grew into a full, echoing laugh that filled the bridge. His officers joined him, their crystalline bodies ringing with amusement. "Oh, little human," Rethik said when he could speak again. "You have spirit. I will give you that. But spirit does not stop plasma cannons. Courage does not break through energy shields. You have one solar cycle to reconsider. When I return, I expect your surrender. If I do not receive it, I will reduce your precious Earth to ashes and sell your survivors as slaves." He cut the communication. Captain Vasquez sat alone in the command center after the transmission ended. Her officers looked at her with worry in their eyes. They had all heard the conversation. They all knew what was coming. "Captain," said her second in command, "what do we do?" Vasquez stood up and looked at the stars through the window. Somewhere out there, the Dominion fleet was waiting. Somewhere out there, an empire of 12 species thought humanity was nothing more than insects to be crushed. They were wrong. "Send a message to every human colony," Vasquez said. "Send it to every military base. Send it to every factory and shipyard. Tell them the aliens have given us 1 year. Tell them we need to prepare." She turned to face her officers. "Humanity has 1 year to get ready for war, and when the Dominion comes back, they will learn why you should never ignore a human warning." The message went out that night, and across 3 star systems, humanity began to prepare for the fight of their existence. Ambassador Rethik returned to Valtheris Prime with a smile on his crystalline face. He walked into the great throne room where the High Council had gathered. Representatives from all 12 species of the Dominion sat in their designated seats, waiting to hear his report. High Sovereign Maltheus looked down from his throne. "Tell us of these humans, Ambassador. Did they accept our generous offer?" "They refused, my sovereign," Rethik said. He did not sound worried. He sounded amused. Their leader, a female soldier named Vasquez, gave a speech about how dangerous humans are. She warned us not to attack them. She said they have been fighting wars since the beginning of their history. Laughter rippled through the council chamber. A Morvani representative, a creature with 6 arms and scales like a fish, spoke up. "They warned the Dominion? A species with 3 colonies warned an empire of 12,000 worlds? It gets better," Rethik continued. "She said humans know war like we know breathing. She said if we attack, they will fight until one of us is destroyed." The laughter grew louder. Even Maltheus allowed himself a small smile. "Show us the intelligence reports," the High Sovereign commanded. Holographic screens appeared in the air, displaying everything the Dominion had learned about humanity. Their population numbers, their ship designs, their weapons, their history. Military advisor Korvax, a stern Valthari with scars on his crystal skin, studied the data carefully. He was old and had fought in many campaigns. Unlike the others, he did not laugh. "My sovereign," Korvax said slowly, "there is something strange in this data." "Speak," Maltheus commanded. "Look at their history," Korvax said. "In just the last 100 years, they have fought 2 conflicts they call world wars. The first one killed 17 million of their own kind. The second one killed over 70 million. He paused. "They developed weapons that split atoms and can destroy entire cities. They used these weapons on themselves." The laughter faded slightly. "They have fought hundreds of smaller wars since then," Korvax continued. "They have developed chemical weapons that melt flesh, biological weapons that cause horrible diseases. They have created machines designed only to kill more efficiently. And they have used all of these things on each other." He looked at the High Sovereign. "This is not a species that fears war. This is a species that has perfected it." Maltheus waved his hand dismissively. "You worry too much, old friend. Yes, they fight among themselves, but that is exactly why they are weak. A species divided cannot stand against a united empire." "Perhaps," Korvax said, "or perhaps a species that practices war constantly is not one we should underestimate." Ambassador Rethik stepped forward. "My sovereign, if I may. Yes, humans have a violent history, But violence without technology is meaningless. Their ships are slow. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Their soldiers have no combat armor worth mentioning. What does it matter if they are willing to fight? A child with a stone cannot defeat a warrior with a plasma rifle. Murmurs of agreement spread through the council. A Kreth representative raised one of his four hands. The Kreth were a conquered species, forced into the Dominion 600 years ago. They were not allowed to speak at council meetings, but today something made him brave. "My lord," the Kreth said quietly, "may I offer an observation?" Malthus looked annoyed but nodded. "Speak quickly." "I have studied the human data as well," the Kreth said. "I notice something that troubles me. When the Dominion conquers a species, we face their military. We destroy their fleets. Their soldiers surrender or die. Then we control their worlds. This has worked for 3,000 years. "Your point?" Malthus asked impatiently. "Humans do not seem to think this way," the Kreth said. "In their wars, soldiers who lose battles do not surrender. They hide. They attack supply lines. They set traps. They blow themselves up to kill enemies. Their civilians fight alongside soldiers. They destroy their own cities rather than let enemies take them. They have a word for this. They call it guerrilla warfare." The council chamber fell silent. "They fight without honor?" a Yith representative asked, disgusted. "They fight to win," the Kreth replied. "At any cost. By any means. They do not care about honor. They care about survival." High Sovereign Malthus had heard enough. "This is foolishness," he declared. "We have conquered thousands of worlds. We have subjugated hundreds of species. Humans are no different. They bleed. They die. They will kneel like all the others." He stood from his throne. "I am ordering a subjugation fleet. 200 warships will travel to the Sol system. They will crush any resistance and bring humanity into the Dominion. Admiral Vorath will command the fleet." Admiral Vorath, a decorated Valthari warrior, bowed deeply. "It will be done, my sovereign. I estimate the campaign will take 2 months, perhaps less." "See that it does," Malthus said. "I grow tired of talking about these humans. The next time I hear their name, I want it to be when they are kneeling before my throne." As the council members filed out of the chamber, military advisor Korvax approached the High Sovereign privately. "My sovereign," he said quietly, "I have served you for 500 years. I have never questioned your judgment. But I ask you now to reconsider. Send a diplomatic mission first. Learn more about these humans before we commit to war." Malthus looked at his old advisor with something like pity. "You have grown soft, Korvax. The Dominion does not negotiate with primitives. We rule them. That is the natural order of things. And if we are wrong about them—" Malthus laughed softly. "We are not wrong. We have never been wrong. Now go. Prepare the fleet. In 2 months, humanity will learn their place in this galaxy." Far across the stars on a small blue planet called Earth, humanity was not waiting. They were working. Factories that had built cars now built weapons. Scientists who had studied medicine now studied alien technology. Soldiers trained day and night. Engineers designed traps that would make the ancient generals of Earth proud. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of Earth's largest warship and looked at the construction happening in orbit. Thousands of workers floated in space, building platforms and weapons and things that did not look like weapons at all. "Will it be enough?" her second-in-command asked. Vasquez thought about the stories her grandmother had told her, stories about a war fought long ago, when her people had faced an enemy with more soldiers and more weapons. Stories about how they had hidden in jungles and mountains, how they had turned the land itself against the invaders, how they had won not with strength, but with patience and cunning and the willingness to pay any price. "We cannot beat them in a fair fight," Vasquez said, "so we will not fight fair. We will make them bleed for every inch of space. We will turn our entire solar system into a trap, and when they finally reach Earth, they will find that the real war has just begun." She looked at the stars where the enemy would come from. "They think we are weak because we fight among ourselves. They do not understand. We fight among ourselves because fighting is what we do best. And now, for the first time in our history, all of humanity has the same enemy." She smiled. It was not a kind smile. "God help them." Admiral Vorath stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Divine Judgment, and watched as 200 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. It was the largest fleet he had ever commanded. Each ship was armed with weapons that could crack planets. Each ship carried thousands of soldiers ready to bring humanity to its knees. "Status report," Vorath commanded. "All ships have arrived safely." "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "no enemy vessels detected. Scanning the system now." Vorath looked at the tactical display. The Sol system was mapped in glowing lines of light. There was the yellow star at the center. There were the planets orbiting around it. And there, on the third planet from the sun, was Earth, his target. "The outer planets are dark, Admiral," the tactical officer said with confusion in his voice. "We are detecting no signals from the gas giants or their moons. No communication traffic. No energy signatures. Nothing." "They have retreated to their inner worlds," Vorath said dismissively. "They know they cannot face us in open space. They are hiding behind their planet like cowards." "Should we investigate the outer system, Admiral?" "No. Our mission is simple. We go to Earth. We destroy any resistance. We accept their surrender. I will not waste time chasing shadows in the darkness." He raised his hand. "All ships, advance. Standard formation. We end this today." The Dominion fleet moved forward like a great wave of metal and fire. They passed the orbit of Neptune, then Uranus, then Saturn. The outer system remained silent and dark. No human ships rose to meet them. No weapons fired at them from the shadows. Vorath began to feel confident. The humans were clearly afraid. They had probably spent the last year preparing to surrender. All their talk of war and fighting had been nothing but empty words. They were passing Jupiter when the first explosion happened. A moon called Europa suddenly lit up with fire. Missiles erupted from beneath its icy surface, hundreds of them, streaking toward the Dominion fleet. At the same time, asteroids that had seemed dead and cold began to move. They were not asteroids at all. They were bombs, massive nuclear weapons hidden inside rocks, drifting toward the fleet. "Shields up!" Vorath screamed. "All ships, evasive action!" But it was too late for some. 20 ships vanished in nuclear fire before they could raise their shields. Missiles slammed into others, punching through armor and systems. The fleet that had been moving in perfect formation was suddenly scattered and burning. "Where did those come from?" Vorath demanded. "Why did we not detect them?" "They were hidden, Admiral," his tactical officer said, fear creeping into his voice. "The humans buried them. They turned the moons into weapons platforms. They hid bombs inside asteroids. Our sensors could not detect them because they were not powered until we were already in range." Vorath gripped the arms of his command chair. 40 ships. He had lost 40 ships before even reaching the inner system. This was not possible. This was not how war was supposed to work. "Continue forward," he ordered. "Launch fighters to clear the debris. We push through to Earth." The fleet limped forward through the kill zone. Every hour brought new attacks. Hidden platforms on moons opened fire with railguns that shot metal at incredible speeds. Automated drones appeared from nowhere and crashed into ships as living bombs. Mines floated in the darkness, invisible until they detonated against hulls. By the time they reached Mars, Vorath had lost 60 ships. "Admiral," his communications officer said, "we are receiving a transmission from Earth." "Put it through." Captain Elena Vasquez appeared on the screen. She looked calm, almost relaxed. Behind her, Vorath could see a command center filled with busy humans. "Admiral Vorath," Vasquez said, "you have lost a quarter of your fleet and you have not even seen a human soldier. I am offering you one chance to withdraw. Take your remaining ships and go home. Tell your sovereign that Earth is not worth the cost." Vorath felt rage building inside him. "You think tricks and traps will save you? I still have 140 warships. I will burn your world to glass." "You can try," Vasquez said, "but I should warn you, everything you have faced so far was just the outer defenses. The real surprises are waiting for you at Earth." She paused. "We have been preparing for this war for a year. We have studied your ships, we know your weaknesses, and we have built our entire strategy around one simple fact." "What fact is that?" Vasquez smiled. "You have never fought an enemy like us." The transmission ended. Vorath ordered the fleet to increase speed. He would not be intimidated by human tricks. He would reach Earth. He would destroy their defenses. He would drag Vasquez before the High Sovereign in chains. The fleet reached Earth orbit 3 days later. They had lost another 20 ships along the way, but now they were here, surrounding the blue planet with weapons ready to fire. "Target their major cities," Vorath commanded. "Prepare to—" Alarms screamed throughout the bridge. "Admiral, multiple hull breaches detected across the fleet." "What?" "We are not under attack. The humans. The humans are inside our ships, Admiral. They are boarding us." Vorath could not believe what he was hearing. "Boarding? How is that possible?" The tactical officer brought up camera feeds from different ships. What Vorath saw made his crystalline blood run cold. Human soldiers in armored suits were moving through the corridors of Dominion warships. They carried weapons that shot metal and fire. They threw small bombs that exploded in enclosed spaces. They moved in groups, covering each other, communicating with hand signals, and they were terrifyingly efficient. Dominion soldiers tried to fight back with their plasma rifles, but the humans did not stay still. They ran and rolled and hid behind corners. They attacked from above and below. They fought like demons, like animals, like nothing Vorath had ever seen. "They came in on our own missiles," the tactical officer said, his voice shaking. "They attached themselves to debris that our shields let through. They crawled across our hulls and cut through airlocks. Admiral, they are on 40 different ships." Vorath watched as one of his best warships went dark. Its crew had been killed or captured. A human soldier stared into a camera and smiled before smashing it. "All ships, activate internal defense systems. Seal all corridors. Vent atmosphere in compromised sections." "We cannot, Admiral. They have already taken our engineering sections. They are controlling our own systems against us." Vorath's flagship shuddered. The lights flickered. Somewhere in the ship he could hear gunfire and screaming. "They are here," he whispered. "They are on my ship." The door to the bridge exploded inward. Human soldiers poured through, their weapons blazing. Vorath reached for his sidearm, but a human was already there, knocking it from his hand and pressing a gun to his head. "Admiral Vorath," the human said. It was a young man with blood on his face and fire in his eyes. "You are now a prisoner of the United Earth Defense Council. Your fleet is destroyed. Your war is over." Vorath looked around his bridge. His officers were dead or surrendering. Through the viewing window, he could see Dominion ships burning, drifting, or flying Earth flags. "This is impossible," he said. "You are primitives. You have no technology. How did you do this?" The human soldier leaned close. "We have been killing each other for 10,000 years, Admiral. You think we do not know how to kill you?" He dragged Vorath away in chains. On Earth, Captain Elena Vasquez watched the last Dominion ship surrender. Around her, command center staff were cheering and crying and hugging each other. They had won. Against all odds, they had won. But Vasquez did not celebrate. She knew this was not the end. The Dominion would send more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. This battle was over, but the war was just beginning. "Send a message to the colonies," she ordered. "Tell them to prepare and start studying every piece of Dominion technology we captured. We need to learn everything we can." She looked at the stars. "Because next time we are not just defending our home. Next time we are taking the fight to them." The news of the subjugation fleet's destruction spread through the Dominion like wildfire. 200 warships gone. Admiral Vorath captured. The primitive humans had done what no species had done in 3,000 years. They had defeated the Dominion in open battle. High Sovereign Maltheus sat on his throne and listened to the reports with growing rage. His crystalline body glowed red with anger. Around him, the council members sat in shocked silence. "How is this possible?" Maltheus demanded. "They had no fleet. They had no technology. How did they destroy 200 warships?" Military advisor Korvac stepped forward. He looked tired and old. "They did not destroy our fleet with ships, my sovereign. They turned their entire solar system into a trap. Hidden weapons, nuclear bombs and asteroids. Soldiers who boarded our vessels and fought hand to hand. They used tactics we have never seen before." "Then we will send more ships," Maltheus declared. 10 times as many, 1,000 warships. We will crush them under the weight of our numbers." "My sovereign," Korvac said carefully, "I must advise caution. The humans have captured our technology. Even now, they are studying our ships, our weapons, our faster-than-light drives. If they learn to build these things themselves, they are primitives, Malthus screamed. It took us 2 centuries to develop faster-than-light travel. They cannot simply learn it from captured ships. Korvax said nothing, but his silence spoke volumes. 8 months later, the first human ship with a faster-than-light drive appeared in Dominion space. It was small compared to Dominion warships, ugly, even with sharp angles and visible weapons bolted to its hull. It dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a border station and broadcast a message before anyone could respond. The message was simple. It was addressed to every species in the Dominion, and it changed everything. This is Admiral Chen Wei of the United Earth Expeditionary Fleet. We come with a message for all species living under Dominion rule. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. The Dominion called us primitives. They said we could never fight back. They were wrong. We have defeated their fleet. We have taken their technology. And now we are coming for them. To every slave, to every prisoner, to every species that has suffered under Dominion cruelty. Rise up. Fight back. We will fight beside you. Together, we will end this empire. Today, the war for freedom begins. The message spread across 1,000 worlds in a matter of days, and on those worlds, something began to stir. The Kreth Collective had been conquered 600 years ago. They had served the Dominion as laborers and servants ever since. They had forgotten what freedom tasted like. But when they heard the human message, they remembered. Kreth workers on a mining planet stopped working. When Dominion soldiers came to force them back to the mines, the Kreth fought back with mining tools and stolen weapons. It was a small rebellion. It should have been crushed in hours. But then human ships appeared in orbit. Human soldiers dropped from the sky and fought alongside the Kreth. Together, they drove the Dominion forces off the planet. Word spread to other Kreth worlds, then to the Morvani, then to the Yith, then to a dozen other species who had lived under the Dominion boot for centuries. The galaxy was burning. Admiral Chen Wei led the first expeditionary fleet from system to system. They did not try to hold territory. They did not try to build bases. They struck fast, freed prisoners, armed rebels, and disappeared before Dominion reinforcements could arrive. Human soldiers became legends on 100 worlds. The other species watched them with wonder and fear. These strange creatures from a small blue planet fought like nothing they had ever seen. On a frozen moon called Veth Prime, a company of human marines held a mountain pass against 3,000 Dominion soldiers for 6 days. They were outnumbered 10 to 1. They ran out of ammunition on the 4th day. They fought with knives and rocks and bare hands until reinforcements arrived. When the battle ended, only 12 Marines were still alive. But they had held the pass. On a jungle world called Morvan, human soldiers taught local rebels how to fight a guerrilla war. They showed them how to make bombs from farm chemicals, how to set traps in the forest, how to attack supply lines and disappear into the green. Within 3 months, the Dominion had abandoned the planet entirely. On a space station above Kreth Prime, a single human pilot flew her damaged fighter into a Dominion dreadnought's engine core. The explosion destroyed the station's power grid and allowed rebel forces to take control. They found her name in the wreckage, Lieutenant Sarah Chen. They built a statue of her in the station's main hall. The Dominion called humans the Unbroken. They meant it as an insult. The humans took it as a compliment. The other species called them the Liberators. They meant it as a prayer. High Sovereign Malthus watched his empire crumble from his throne room on Valtheris Prime. Every day brought new reports of lost worlds and failed campaigns. Every day, more species rose against Dominion rule. How are they doing this? Malthus asked. They are one species, one small species from one small planet. How are they destroying an empire of 3,000 years? Military advisor Korvax stood before him with a datapad in his hands. I have been studying them, my sovereign, trying to understand how they think, how they fight. He paused. I believe I have found the answer. Then speak. We conquer species to make them serve us, Korvax said. We take their resources, we use their labor. We see other beings as tools to be used. But humans, he shook his head. Humans do not fight for resources or power. They fight for ideas, freedom, justice, dignity. These words mean nothing to us, but to them, these words are worth dying for. He pulled up images on the datapad. Human soldiers sharing food with starving Kreth children. Human medics treating wounded Morvani fighters. Human engineers helping Yith refugees repair their ships. They do not want to rule the galaxy, Korvax continued. They want to free it, and that is why they are winning, because every species they help becomes an ally. Every world they liberate becomes a friend. They are building something we never thought to build. They are building trust. Maltheus stared at the images with confusion in his ancient eyes. Why would they help species they have never met? Why would they die for beings who are not their own kind? I asked one of them that question, Korvax said quietly. We captured a human soldier in the last battle. I interrogated him myself. Do you know what he told me? What? He said, because it is the right thing to do. Korvax lowered the datapad. I have lived for 700 years, my sovereign. I have seen many things, but I have never heard anyone say those words and truly mean them. Until now. Maltheus sat in silence for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was cold. We will recall all fleets to defend the home systems. We will fortify Valthares Prime until it is unbreakable. Let the humans have the outer worlds. Let them play at being liberators. When they come for us, we will be ready. And if they never come, Korvax asked, if they simply wait while our empire continues to crumble? Maltheus did not answer, because for the first time in 3,000 years he did not know what to do. Far across the galaxy, Admiral Elena Vasquez, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, stood on the bridge of humanity's newest flagship, the Earth's Fury. Around her, a fleet of 300 ships prepared for the final campaign. Admiral, her communications officer said, we have received confirmation from the Kreth, the Morvani, and the Yith. Their fleets are ready. They will meet us at the rally point. Vasquez nodded. And the Dominion? They have pulled back to their core systems. Valthares Prime is heavily fortified. They are preparing for a siege. Vasquez looked at the star map. 3 years ago, she had stood before a Dominion ambassador and given a warning. 3 years ago, humanity had been alone, facing an empire that spanned half the galaxy. Now they were not alone. Now they had allies. Now they had a fleet. And now it was time to end this war. Set course for Valthares Prime, Vasquez ordered. It is time to finish what they started. The combined fleet of humanity and its allies gathered at the edge of the Valthares system. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Human ships flew alongside Kreth cruisers and Morvani destroyers and Yith carriers. 300,000 soldiers from a dozen species waited for the order to advance. Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Earth's Fury and looked at the tactical display. Valthares Prime hung in space like a jewel, surrounded by the last remaining Dominion warships. It was the heart of the empire that had ruled for 3,000 years, and today that heart would stop beating. All ships reporting ready, Admiral, her tactical officer said. The Allied commanders are waiting for your signal. Vasquez took a deep breath. She thought about everyone who had brought them to this moment, the soldiers who had died defending Earth, the rebels who had risen on 100 worlds, the ordinary people from a dozen species who had chosen to fight rather than live as slaves. Send the signal, she said. All ships advance. The war ends today. The combined fleet moved forward like a wave of steel and fire. Dominion ships rose to meet them, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The battle was fierce but short. Within hours, the last Dominion warship had either surrendered or been destroyed. Only Valthares Prime remained. High Sovereign Maltheus had retreated to a fortress moon that orbited the capital world. It was the most heavily defended location in the Dominion. Shields that could withstand nuclear strikes. Weapons that could destroy entire fleets. An army of loyal soldiers who would fight to the death. Vasquez looked at the fortress moon on her display. Can we break through? It would cost us half our fleet, her tactical officer replied. Maybe more. Then we do not attack from outside, Vasquez said. She opened a communication channel to all Allied ships. This is Fleet Admiral Vasquez. I need volunteers for a ground assault. We are going to land on that moon and take it room by room. This will be the most dangerous mission of the war. I will not order anyone to go, but I will be leading the assault myself." Within minutes, thousands of soldiers from every allied species had volunteered. Human Marines stood beside Kreth warriors and Morvani fighters, species that had been enemies for centuries, now prepared to fight together. The assault shuttles launched under heavy fire. Hundreds were shot down before reaching the surface, but enough got through. Vasquez was among the first to land, her boots hitting the rocky surface of the fortress moon as explosions lit up the sky around her. "Move!" she shouted. "Get to the main entrance! Do not stop for anything!" The battle for the fortress was brutal. Dominion soldiers fought with desperation, knowing this was their last stand. Allied forces pushed forward inch by inch, paying for every corridor with blood. Vasquez fought alongside her soldiers. She was not young anymore. Her hair had turned gray during the war. Her body carried scars from a dozen battles. But she would not ask her people to go anywhere. She would not go herself. After 6 hours of fighting, they reached the inner chambers. The doors to Malthius's throne room stood before them, massive and golden, and covered in symbols of Dominion power. "Breach it," Vasquez ordered. Explosives blew the doors off their hinges. Allied soldiers poured into the throne room, weapons raised. They found High Sovereign Malthius sitting on his throne, alone. His crystalline body was cracked and dim. His loyal guards had been killed in the fighting. He had nothing left but his pride. Vasquez walked through the ranks of soldiers and stopped before the throne. She looked up at the being who had started this war, the being who had dismissed humanity as primitives, the being who had laughed at her warning 3 years ago. "High Sovereign Malthius," she said, "by the authority of the Terran Alliance and its allied species, you are under arrest for crimes against sentient life. Your empire is finished. Your rule is over." Malthius stared at her with ancient, tired eyes. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "What are you?" Vasquez tilted her head. "I am human. You know this." "No," Malthius said. "I know what you call yourselves. I know where you come from. But I do not understand what you are." He leaned forward on his throne. "We have conquered thousands of species. We have ruled for 3,000 years. Every enemy we faced, we defeated. Every rebellion, we crushed. We were the masters of the galaxy. And then you came, a small species from a small planet in a forgotten corner of space. You should have been nothing. You should have been dust beneath our feet. But instead, you destroyed us." His voice cracked. "How? Why? What makes you different?" Vasquez was quiet for a long moment. She thought about how to answer. She thought about all the things that made humans who they were. Their stubbornness, their creativity, their refusal to give up even when all hope was lost. "We are the species that crawled out of caves and conquered our world with sharpened rocks," she said finally. "We are the species that split the atom and walked on our moon and waged war on ourselves for 10,000 years before you ever knew we existed. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest. We are not the most advanced." She stepped closer to the throne. "But we are the most stubborn. When we are knocked down, we get back up. When we are told something is impossible, we find a way to do it anyway. When someone threatens our homes and our families, we fight until we cannot stand. And then we fight some more." She leaned in close to Malthius's face. "You were warned," she said softly. 3 years ago, I stood before your ambassador and told him exactly what would happen if you attacked us." He laughed. "You all laughed. You thought we were primitives. You thought we would kneel like all the others." She straightened up. "We do not kneel. We never have. And now your empire is ashes, and your people will answer for what they have done." Malthius closed his eyes. "Then kill me. End it." "No," Vasquez said. "That would be too easy. You will live. You will watch as the species you enslaved build their own futures. You will see the galaxy flourish without the Dominion's boot on its throat. You will die old and forgotten, knowing that everything you built was destroyed by the primitives you dismissed." She turned to her soldiers. "Take him away." As Malthius was dragged from his throne in chains, the allied soldiers began to cheer. The sound echoed through the fortress, spreading to the ships in orbit, reaching across the communication networks to every corner of the galaxy. The Dominion had fallen, the war was over, and humanity had won. 6 months later, the Terran Accord was formed. It was a coalition of free species, bound together by shared sacrifice and common purpose. Humans did not demand to rule. They did not ask for tribute or power. They simply wanted to help build something better than what had come before. On every liberated world, statues were raised, not of generals or admirals, but of ordinary soldiers, human marines who had died freeing prisoners, pilots who had sacrificed themselves in battle, medics who had treated the wounded without asking what species they were. On Valthari's Prime itself, the old throne room was transformed into a memorial. The names of every person who had died in the war were carved into the walls. Human names alongside Kreth names, alongside Morvani names, and 100 others. At the center of the new capital of the Terran Accord, a simple monument stood. It was not grand or impressive, just a black stone pillar with words carved in every language of the allied species. Fleet Admiral Elena Vasquez, now retired, visited the monument 1 year after the war ended. She was old and tired. She had given everything she had to the fight. She had lost friends and comrades and pieces of her own soul. But looking at the monument, she felt something like peace. The words carved into the stone were simple. They were the words she had spoken 3 years ago, when a Dominion ambassador had laughed at the idea that humans could fight back. They were a reminder of what had started the war. And a warning to anyone who might think of threatening the galaxy's freedom again. The words read, "We tried to warn them." A group of children from different species played near the monument. They laughed and chased each other, unaware of the history they were running past. They had never known war. They had never known slavery. They had only known freedom. Vasquez watched them with a small smile. This was why they had fought. This was why they had died, so that children like these could laugh and play and grow up in a galaxy without fear. A young Kreth child ran up to her. "Excuse me," the child said. "Are you a human?" Vasquez nodded. "I am. My teacher said humans saved us. She said you came from far away to help us fight." "We did not save you," Vasquez said gently. "We fought together. Humans and Kreth and Morvani and all the others. We saved each other." The child thought about this for a moment. Then she smiled and ran back to her friends. Vasquez took one last look at the monument. Then she turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd of beings from 100 different worlds, all living together in peace. The Dominion had dismissed humanity as primitives. They had ignored humanity's warning, and they had paid the price in war. But from the ashes of that war, something beautiful had risen. A galaxy united, a future worth fighting for, and a reminder carved in stone for all eternity that you should never underestimate the stubborn species from the small blue planet called Earth.